Hello, I'm xocean Alexander. I am the resident tropical astrologer, and this week we're going to do something just a little bit different. We are actually going to talk about Saturday, March 1st through Saturday, March 8th. So just adding a little bit extra. And the reason why I wanted to talk about March 1st is I didn't talk about it in the last week's video, and I wanted to make sure to talk about it. So let's get in. So the moon will be waxing through Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and the first few degrees of Cancer this week. On Saturday, March 1st, the moon, who will still be a new moon, but will have moved into the sign of Aries, will be conjunct Venus. And the two of them will be conjunct at the same degree in Aries. They will be together at 9 degrees of Aries. And I found this really, really significant because this is the day that Venus stations retrograde. Now, Venus stations retrograde every 18 months. So we haven't had one in 18 months, and they will start their journey traveling backwards starting on March 1st. But I just wanted, before I talk about Venus retrograde in more detail, I just wanted to talk about the significance of what a Venus moon conjunction is on such an auspicious day of Venus stationing retrograde. So in astrology, both Venus and the moon are the only two feminine planets. I'm saying it in air quotes. I believe that gender is a spectrum. I believe that there are a multitude of genders, and so when I say that they are the two feminine the two feminine planets, I'm talking archetypally who they are associated with. So Venus and the moon are archetypally the only two feminine planets. All of the other ones, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, the Sun, are all associated with Roman and Greek gods. And so the mythology of them are going to be masculine or the archetypes of related to the stories of men. And so within the context of traditional astrology, the only two planets that are feminine are the moon and Venus. And within this traditional astrology, again, big caveat, I believe in a multitude of gender expressions, and I believe well beyond the binary, but I do think that there is a lot of significance in that we have such a patriarchal astrological system, and that we've had thousands of years with this being true, including the last 50 years as astrology has become bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of the traditional texts, both thousands of years ago, like Hellenistic texts, and then also like the astrology books that were written in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, are going to have that very stark binary, limited to gender expression, and both the moon and Venus are going to be referred to as she, whereas Mercury and Saturn and the Sun, etc., are going to be referred to as he. And so there is some importance in that because we've got a lot of context. And so I just find it really fascinating that the day that Venus stations retrograde, the moon will be together. And so archetypally, or not necessarily archetypally, but traditionally, the moon has represented as the caretaker, often associated with the mother, and Venus has been referred to as the maiden, the girl, the lover. So you've got the archetypes of the mother and the lover, and the two of them come together. And so I think that it's really interesting that we've got like the two togetherness of these femme planets banding together, and I do find some significance in that, and I'm hoping what comes from that is minorities and people who are considered to be not not cis men. So trans folks, non-binary folks, gender fluid folks, women, trans women, all the spectrum of all of the genders can come together just as the moon and Venus come together as Venus is about to station retrograde. So I just found some significance in that. And I think that, I invite you to take that what you will, if that inspires you to read more about the archetypes, the masculine archetypes of astrology and different gods and different goddesses. I also invite you to read the different ways that women and femme and therefore other folks, non-binary folks and trans, got introduced into astrology later on through different asteroids and in different contexts. So we can talk about Demeter and Vesta and Pallas Athene and all of these Eris that I'm not going to get into right now, but would love to get into in future dates. So yeah, that is Venus, and Venus will be retrograde from March 1st. It will station retrograde at 7:47 p.m. and will be retrograde until April 13th. And so what that means astrologically, energetically, anytime a planet stations retrograde, we practice the series of Re's. So rest, reflect, reset. So it is a time to do the Re's in the archetypes of that planet. For Venus represents love, your self-love, your love languages with others, how you connect with them. Venus is also your values and your ethics. Venus is also your money, your finances. Venus is beauty and art and music and creativity. And so while Venus is retrograde between March 1st and April 13th, it is time to reflect on all of those archetypes, your own self-love, your love language to others, your ethics, your values, your relationship to art and creativity. And it is also time for more rest and a reset. So it might be time to go a little bit slower. It may be time to check in with how are your relationships going, both with perhaps your lovers, but also with your family and your friends. Do things need to have conversations? And I am by no means saying that, you should disengage or, take a step back unless that is what you truly need to do for you. A lot of astrologers and a lot of pop astrology will say that people will break up during Venus retrograde, and that is true. People do break up during Venus retrogrades. That happens. So it's a theme, but it's not a theme unless that relationship was ready to end anyway. So relationships aren't going to just up and end if they're doing great. If you're checking in with yourself, if you're checking in with your sweeties or with your besties or whomever it is. So it's not going to come out of the blue. But what will come up to the surface are the issues that you're having, and there might be a time for reflection and therefore a reset. So yeah, it's time to rest, reflect, and reset through the archetypes of Venus. And then visually, what will be happening in the sky is that for the last 9 months, Venus has been an evening star, rising after sunset. Right now, Venus is pretty high up in the sky, so pretty far away from the sunset, and we'll be seeing over the next couple of weeks Venus getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the horizon line until Venus gets so close to the sun that they get absorbed by the sun's light, and then Venus will be disappeared, will be gone for 40 days starting in mid-March. So the last time that we will be able to see Venus as an evening star will be around March 14th, which also happens to be the day of a full lunar eclipse, and that I'll get into in the next video. But yeah, if you can, go out and see Venus in the night sky. They will be just right above the sunset and getting closer and closer and closer. So over the next couple of weeks, go say hello and goodbye and express your love to Venus before before they disappear into the light of the sun, and will be gone for 40 days and 40 nights until they emerge as a morning star and will rise before sunrise and will become visible in mid-late April. So if you like to see Venus as an evening star, you've got just a couple more weeks, and then when we see Venus in the sky again, they will be rising before the sun in the early morning pre-sunrise, and so that is one transit that I wanted to talk about. The other two transits that I want to talk about this week are Neptune and the North Node are still conjunct between 27 and 29 degrees of Pisces. They have been conjunct for quite some time. I'm looking at my notes. When did I write? Oh, let's see. They have been conjunct since January 12th, and will continue to be conjunct through March 30th until Neptune moves into the sign of Aries. And so this conjunction is prominent. We've been feeling this conjunction. This to me, so Pisces is often associated with many things, but one of them is spirituality and religion. And Neptune is associated with many things, but one of them is connection to spirit, to God, to energy, to whatever that is that you believe in. And the North Node represents where we're moving towards. The nodes, the North Node and the South Node, represent where the eclipses are going to be. So these eclipses are going to be Aries Virgo eclipses over the next 18 months. A little caveat there that I'll talk a little bit more in the next video. But so with the conjunction of the energy of the eclipses, the North Node conjunct Neptune in Pisces, to me, I've been noticing since they've been conjunct since January 12th, has been an increased rise of religion and spirituality on two very different ends. So on one end, a deeper relationship to spirit through perhaps meditation, through psychic abilities, into tapping into different realms, into your own personal connection to God or goddess or the ephemeris or the ethereal or the cosmic or the energy, whatever language you use, a personal connection in connection to one another is one side. And I also take note that this really amazing podcast called The Telepathy Tapes came out during this window of time. And the telepathy tapes are about telepathic connections between nonverbal autistic people. And so if you haven't listened to that podcast, I recommend it. I think that it's really great. And so we've got this personal connection to spirit, to God, to goddess, to godex, to whatever that language is that you like to use. And on the other end of the bookend, we've got an increased amount of religious extremism on all fronts. And this is multiple religions. And so the extremism is really defending the right to hate queer folks and trans folks and women and immigrants and refugees and people of color. And there's been this support of in the name of God, or in the name of the Bible, or in the name of whatever it is, the okayness to hate. And so I'm seeing two very broad scopes of how this transit that has been a long-lasting transit is coming forth. And the last thing that I want to say about this week is about Mars. So Mars stationed direct on Sunday, February 23rd, but Mars has been sitting at the 17th degree of Cancer for quite some time. So although they stationed direct, they've been sitting. So when a planet stations, it means that they are slowing to a halt, turning, gathering momentum, and then moving. So Mars has been sitting at 17 degrees of Cancer since February 12th and will be there through Sunday, March 9th. Starting on Sunday, March 9th, Mars will then start to move direct. So there will be some movement, which will make Mars really happy because Mars wants to go fast. Mars wants to be direct. Mars wants to be in the flow and building momentum and going faster and faster and faster. That is Mars' happy place. And so starting on March 9th, March 10th, there will be a little bit more oomph. Perhaps you will feel that in your own energetic body. Maybe you'll be able to unstick some stagnation. And so if you've got anything at a cardinal sign, Cancer specifically, but also Aries, Libra, or Capricorn, you've been feeling this Mars sitting at 17 degrees, and hopefully there will be some momentum. So that is what I have to say about this week. I hope that you take care of yourself. I hope you tend to yourself. We are in eclipse season. Things are getting thicker. Things are getting heavier. Things are getting bigger. That's what happens during eclipse season, and more about that in our next video. All right, take care of yourself. Drink lots of water.